struggled with a lot and continue to struggle with, which is really not the partnership stuff, but more of the networking. I hope it's a very interactive session. I'm not one who does presentations because I want to basically pick up from what I've been through and what I've experienced. So I'm looking forward to an interactive session, really.
And you haven't introduced yourself.
As in, okay, my name is Angela Miriam Besamugere. I am the founder of Coding in Heels, and I am also the general manager at Speed Africa, which is an IT solutions company, one of the best in Uganda. I'm also on the National Task Force for 4IR. This is a group of people who sits to basically aid the government into preparing for the digital revolution, as well as a US Embassy IVLP alumni. I'm also part of the UNCTAD, which is the United Nations Trading Cards, a member of that. I think really that sums it up.
Yeah. Now, okay, maybe to give you a simple brief, since we didn't brief you fully. So we have a community of freelancers, independent workers, contractors, consultants, technologists, creatives. So the program is called the Freelancers Lounge.
Okay.
So the aim is to equip young Ugandans to be able to do their own independent work. So we just learn everything to do with business skills, leveling expertise, finance, everything you need to be a fully fledged worker, a work master. That's the one I use.
Yeah.
Yes, because we have the route of employment and the route of startup entrepreneurship, but there's that sweet spot in the middle where people can work as consultants and be able to make it. So that's the area we are looking into. Okay. And we've had these sessions for 4 weeks now.
Okay.
We're about to finish. We finish this week on Thursday. And we've looked at a number of things from how to start off as a freelancer, sales, marketing, personal branding. There are so many things, so many. It's quite inclusive. I know you love women things. We had a session for women on mompreneurship, how mothers can leverage freelancing, remote work, and stuff like that. So we've been busy. People have been learning. But there's a part which we haven't really looked at, and that's networking. Me, I know you personally. I've worked with you. I know how you are able to get partners and connections and networks, and you have that ability. So we believe that you are the right person to extend that ability to all of us. In these few minutes we are going to be together, and we catch it, go with it, and add a brick or two to different people's lives. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, the person before you, don't be moved by the small intro she gave you. I even had to pull it out of you. She's loaded. She's loaded with knowledge, information, content. And Angie, I will let you do your thing while people getting questions. You told me you like Q&A.
I do.
Our people, sometimes they are timid, so they need you to first interact with them, then we can do the Q&A towards the end.
Okay.
So I will let you do your thing.
Andrew, just let me know how much time I have, because I do talk a lot, so I need to be watching the time. How much time do I have?
You have around 60 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so I'll hope to be done by 6. Hi, everyone. As I've introduced myself, don't let the the titles fool you, really. I'm an approachable person, but a little bit about my background. Everything, Andrew and I working together and getting to know each other, I'd say is probably about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I'd say about that time. But everything I accomplished with all these titles was a change about 4 or 5 years ago, where I just decided, I was sick and tired of the corporate world. I'd been in telecom for about 7 years. So basically, I'd been in teleco, IT, back office, but I think I wanted a change in my life. And when I left the corporate world, I think I was thrown into a little bit of what some of you are facing, where maybe you're not particularly corporate and you're not yet successful as an entrepreneur. So you're in the middle, just leaving something behind and trying to get into the next phase. And one of the things that I think is really important to talk about is the network. The network, I know this, the title said, I think, building your network and then business partnerships. So I'm going to give a few pointers of how it worked for me and how it's got me to where I am. I happen to be a very, very shy person. So I was one of those people who could not approach people. Sales is probably still one of the hardest things for me to do because it's just hard for me to approach people. And in entrepreneurship or when you do business, that's definitely a no-no, because you won't be able to basically bring people to provide the service that you want to provide to. And as a sales entrepreneur, I guess, you have to have a pipeline, so that if you're planning to make, let's say, 10 million shillings per month, your pipeline should be doubling that, or actually should be like 10 times that. So if you want to make 10 million, the pipeline or the people you connect with should basically be like 100 million. So to actually get to where I am, I had to start building my networks, to get to know people, to approach people, to speak to them. But when we talk about networks, it's not just a matter of just bumping into people. I know in Uganda, when we refer to things like networking, we all talk about conferences. There's this IT conference, there's a blockchain conference, there's a whatever industry you're in, there's a farming conference. But before we get to all that, the first thing, I'm just going to talk about a few pointers. Before you start to network, do you actually sit down and make it a goal and say, you know what, I want to actually meet 15 influential people? But even before you get to, I want to meet 15 influential people, you have to ask yourself, who do you want to be, you as a person? In other words, because the person you decide you want to be is basically the network you need to find. For example, I was thinking to myself, if someone called me up and said, hey, we're going to a party, you get to meet Jay-Z and PDD, to me, that would not be building my network. Number one, because I have no desire to be a rap artist or a performing artist, so it's not beneficial. You can go around and meet celebrities and meet all kinds of influential people, but are they going to influence the direction that you want to be in, or are they going to be the flock that you want to move with? So do you understand the person you are? Yes, you want to be an entrepreneur. How big do you want to be? We see people, do you want to be like a Mark Zuckerberg, where you own a company which is trillions, or are you a small thinker? You're like, you know what, once I hit Masaka, that's it for me. So you have to actually ask yourself, who do you aspire to be and who's the flock you want to run with? Number two, you have to figure out, where do these people hang out? If you want to meet, I think you've heard of it, that when you want to meet influential business people or entrepreneurs, I hear Rotary or Rotaract is a very good space. Have you done your research to find out where the people you want to meet hang out? And have you made yourself qualified to go to those places? If you hear that a person likes to go golfing and you really need this person, are you willing to go the extra mile? Because I understand maybe, they might have to pay a fee of 500,000. Are you willing to forego that and actually track down the people that you want? Because meeting people that are influential or people that might change your life, it requires sacrifice. If I tell you the things that I did when it was time to meet maybe the ambassador of US or the ambassador of France or the ambassador of EU, I didn't just sit in my house and be like, oh, this guy wants a restaurant. I remember one time, one of the embassies, I won't specify which, one of the embassies they were actually trying to hold me and said, do you have an appointment? And even though I didn't have one, I said, of course I do. And I made up some story just to get in there. So, I mean, I'm not advising anyone to do that, but it's about looking at your goals and saying, how bad do I need this person? Are they going to help me? And so you look at areas like that. I mean, there's different places to meet people. We can talk about social media. LinkedIn is a great place, but you want to ask yourself, okay, you've connected with Angie. What's the point? What do you want to tell me, right? So you want to look at social media, maybe look at my profile, find out what I'm interested in. As Andrew stated, I'm very much into women in tech. I'm into tech. So if if you're in farming or if you're in fashion, and just because you hear, oh, Angie's influential, and you reach out to me and you're like, I want to get to know you. To be quite honest, maybe if it's to introduce you to someone, maybe like Brenda Maraka or something, or Brenda Nanyonjo, Miss Uganda, maybe then you can approach me. But you must have an agenda. You just don't want to meet and be like, it's so good to meet you, let's connect. Yeah, but connect for what, right? Then I've talked about conferences. When you go to a conference, I know many of us jump and go to conferences. Oh, there's a blockchain conference. Now the catch comes when it's a break. And then you have all these people rallied around. And of course, because you're networking, you find a group of people and then, they start talking and they start talking about, so, do you think this cryptography thing is going to work? Or what do you think about mining? Do you think it's really bad on the planet? And you have no idea what they're talking about. Even people who wish to network with you at that point would just lose interest, because you'd just be looking like a deer in headlights. You've come for a conference, you're ready to network, but you have absolutely no idea what they're talking about or what the occasion is about. So it's really good to research on the conferences that you're going to. Another area that we actually get networks, but we kind of ignore, are actually in-laws. Should I say family? Every time, as long as you have someone in your family marrying, whether it's a cousin or what, your network is growing. Many of us don't take the time to say, oh, okay, my cousin is married to a gentleman now who works in URA. I've been wanting to, to get someone to help with my taxes. We're so focused on, oh, I just want to meet, the ambassador of Russia, or I want to meet this musician or that musician. Like I said, it goes back down to, have you focused? Have you set your goal on what it is that you want to achieve? And after figuring what you want to achieve, who are you going to be in that sector, right? We all know that geographical networks now are huge. If you travel, obviously, that's even better when you get to international conferences. I would always say I'd encourage people to travel. I know people, when we talk about traveling, most of the times they feel if they just go to Nairobi or Sudan or Rwanda, they don't consider that traveling because they want to go to the big countries, US and everything like that. But I would say start small, because the great advantage with when you look like at a country like Kenya, they are ahead of us. I was quite shocked because I've not been to Kenya, I think, since I was about 3 years old. And I went for the first time last year, and I couldn't believe that these two countries were borders. And when you see the milestone they've taken, when they say you Kenyans are hustlers, I'm telling you, people work over there. So businesses move quite quickly. So it's also good for you to go out and mingle with people who are in a faster paced economy, if I can call it like that. Like, get to know how they do their things so you can come and implement them. And when people are just next door, it's much easier to jump on a bus and go to Kenya, or a flight, or even to drive there, than it is to ask for a US visa, because it might take you 2 years to plan to go to US to go to a conference, when you could actually just use a weekend to go to Kenya and come back. So I would also say expand your network. Don't just be like, I'm in Kampala, that's all I need. I have a friend of mine who teases me and says, and you know what, no matter what continent you land in, I don't think you can fail to get help. And it's true, because I've tried to make sure my networks are spread across the globe. If you talk Asia, I make sure I have somebody. If you talk about Germany, I make sure I have somebody. So even when you meet people here, whether you've gone out and talking to people and just keeping in touch with them is always, always helpful, because you never know how that person can help you. Now, we talked about meeting all these people. So when you introduce yourself, how do you introduce yourself? Of course, I got caught up having to introduce myself twice, but when I take it, when you're intentionally trying to get someone's attention, you have to state, should I say, you have to state the value you bring. So if, for example, if I just meet you in the supermarket and I like your shoes or I like your hair, I'm obviously not going to be like, hi, my name is Angie. I'm IVLP of the US Embassy and I'm on the task force. No, I'll keep it very, cash. Like, hi, I'm Angie. I love your hair. But when I meet someone who I'm trying to make an impression with, it's no point being humble. Basically, you have to show your value as soon as possible. I think we also call it the pitch, elevator pitch, where you have a very short time frame to say what you do. And this may not necessarily be giving your CV credentials. It, like I said, it really depends on what your aim is. There's some people where introducing yourself with all those, should I say, accolades is not important. But let's say I want to talk about a memorable subject. Let's say I go to a music show and I realize there's a salesperson I really, really wanted to get in touch with. At 8 p.m., I don't think that person is very interested in me saying, by the way, we sell IT solutions. Do you need cybersecurity? It's 8 p.m. But I realize he's at a music show or she's at a music show. The first thing I'm going to talk about is, because I'm musical, that's my time to say, oh, by the way, I didn't know that you love music. I actually play the piano. Or, talk about something they're interested in. And, they're like, oh, and they say, oh, I love the flute. And then you start a conversation with there, because guess what? After that, they'll be interested in, do you want to, go for a next show? Or you find out when's the next show. And so you build rapport with them over there. So like I said, it goes back to following up with someone. What are they interested in? I don't know if you guys have really studied about building rapport with a person even before you introduce yourself. I don't know if you know this. I think it's estimated that when you walk into a room, you have about 3 seconds to impress, whether it's a job interview, whether it's whatever it is. You have about 3 seconds for you to influence the person subconsciously. And you'll be surprised that even though you don't know the person, within those 3 seconds, you either take a liking to them or a disliking to them. Let me give you an example. Someone could come for an interview and it's just something like, okay, not actually, let me say a border rider. You'll call a border rider on an Uber and he'll come showing up with a tie, he's tucked in, polished shoes. You know what? You'll subconsciously take a liking to them. You'll take a liking to them. But if someone shows up, he's got like the best bike. He tells you, I know the best traffic routes, without any traffic. But he's dressed like a pauper. His shoes are not polished. He looks like he's just come from a farm. Immediately, the rapport has been broken. So the best way to build rapport, like we said, is find out what someone likes. They say, flattery will get you everywhere, but there's a saying to that, because if I walk someone says, oh, Angie, I love your makeup. Believe you me, then I pay attention to them because they've said something I like. Or they tell me, oh my goodness, I saw you in Cape Town. I love that city. Suddenly we have something to talk about. So make yourself likable to the other person. And like we said, it goes down to studying the person you want to network with. You might think it's hilarious that you have to study a person, but when your success relies on it, you will study. You'll go to LinkedIn, their social media platform, find out how do they spend their birthdays, how do they hang out for Christmas, do they like to travel, so that when you get in touch with them, there's nothing worse than being given the opportunity to meet someone you've been wanting to meet and you have nothing to say. That's why I tell people, on average, I think I spend 3 hours on YouTube daily. If I don't do it during the day, I must do it between at least 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. because I must study about something I don't know every single day, however random it is. I must watch geographical news, geopolitical news. I must understand what's happening in finance. How close are we to using CBDC so that if I'm talking to people in finance, I know what's happening. If we're talking about Stocks, well, I know what's happening with S&P 500. I know what's happening with NASDAQ. If we're talking about the war, I may not have all the information, but I know, well, Ukraine and Russia, are they still at it? So you have to become an interesting person. One time, I think it was Bishop T.D. Jakes who said, would you take yourself out to dinner? Would you take yourself out to dinner? Would you be boring? Would you sit and look at yourself and say, this is the most boring conversation I've ever had with myself? So what do you actually know? What do you spend your time learning? Yeah. So please become an interesting person and research on the person you want to talk to, research on the product you want to talk about, even the industry that you're in. Yes, you want to be an entrepreneur in whatever area, whether it's tech, whether it's fashion. Do you follow fashion news? Because when you're meeting people of influence, they've not become influenced just like that. They've become influential because they've put their hardest work in it. So even in your field or whatever business that you're doing, are you giving it your all? Are you giving it your all? Have you set goals for each milestone? Yes, you want to meet an influential people, but are they meeting you at the start? Are they meeting you in the middle? Or are they meeting you when you're about to lift off? Because if someone comes and you're like, I want to grow my business, and then they're like, so tell me your projections. Where do you see yourself, 3 years from now? And you're just like, I've not really thought about that. Okay, what about a year from now? Yeah, I'm just hustling. I'm just trying to get it in order. Then you're going to have a problem with keeping someone's attention. So make sure that even when they meet you, you show that you have value. Please make sure that you as a person, you have value, and also make your business valuable. So I think for as far as networking, that is it. And then the second part maybe I'll talk about is partnerships. So you've met the person and, by God's grace, people are really interested in working with you and maybe partnering with you. There's some things that you should actually consider, because what I've seen, especially in the young spaces, the most important thing that people are trying to get is the finances. We all know, most people, what you need to grow the business, to put capital, is really finances. But I think before you run to get the finances, you really also have to figure out a few things about your partner, things that people may not necessarily think about until it's too late. So the person says, oh, you want to expand, we're able to meet your needs, but at the end of the day, are there goals aligned up with your goals? And that goes two-way. You can build a partnership, and these people are expecting to stretch you. They tell you, okay, well, if you're starting with an income of $1,000 a month, if we partner with you, we expect you to triple that in 3 months. Sometimes money is so good, but when you sit down and really think about it, can you meet their goals? Because when the money is right in front of you, let's say $150,000, you will definitely say, oh yes, I can definitely meet. But in actual sense, you might actually have a problem. So you have to think about it. Do you align with their goals? And vice versa, because they might be like, oh, we don't really want to expand much, or we're only concentrating on building for East Africa, and you have goals of going internationally. So please find out, are your goals aligned? Are you going in the same direction? The other thing is, do you have the same values? I know people don't like to think about values because we enter, whether it's a corporate world or a business, we all think it's about exchanging money. A customer comes, you exchange money, they go. But in actual sense, if they tell you, you know what, we think, we're getting great customers, how about we rob them by increasing or having some hidden costs? Are you up with that? Are you okay with fleecing your customers? Because I mean, if you're down, then by all means. But if you're a person of integrity who wants to be loyal to customers and be honest to them, then I would recommend that you might have to step back, because it starts with let's fleece the customers to let's embezzle the funds. I think we see how things can really get weird when you get to high places. You didn't believe that one day you could be corrupt, but the minute you join a certain group of people, you even look at yourself one day and wonder how you got there. So do you actually have the same values? The other thing is it's the culture, the people you're partnering up with. Most people don't consider that. We only tend to think that culture is in families or, because I'm a Muganda, this is my culture. But companies also actually have culture. I can tell you that I've worked in countries in the West, I've worked in countries in Africa, I've lived in 5 countries. But even companies have their own culture. I can tell you that the company we had in Warid was very different from the culture in Airtel, from the culture we have in Speed. Some companies are the traditional type where a boss walks in and everyone dives under their desk, fearful. So are you partnering with a company where the bosses are expected to be top tier and then the rest of the team is like low down there so that, you're only good for collecting coffee and there's that division? Or are you looking to have a culture where there's no boss actually, it's just a team lead and he sits with his team and they discuss things. So you also have to consider things like that. Are your ideas the same? And the other thing is, are you looking at short-term relationship or a long-term relationship like a marriage? Are you like, let's partner on this thing for 1 year and then we split and go our ways? Not in a bad sense, but is this person one you want to go the long road with, like a marriage? Or is it like a dating scene? Let me date you, we exchange this, you give me the trucks, I bring the food, that kind of thing. After a year, then that's it. Yeah. So you have to also really think, can I serve these people? Can I add value? Because it goes back to that thing of where someone wants to take you on as a partner, but deep down, you're a lazy procrastinator. Someone sits down, they tell their goals. So, I work till midnight every night. I've been grinding at this thing for 3 years. We finally got a breakthrough. So are you willing to join? And you don't wake up till 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. and you're done with work like by 3 p.m. So you also have to, can you really give the equivalent value that this person needs from you? Then the other thing I would also look at is it about the money or equity? Because some people would want to join and they're like, look, we're giving you money for this amount of shares, or you just pay and we just work together. So you have to see, there are some people who are just like, we'll give you $50,000 for 60% of your company. And some people rush, but how comfortable are you going to be losing control of your company? Because I've noticed that someone will come and give you $200,000 and you're so happy and they say, oh yes, I'm so excited. And they say, we're going to take 60%. You say, absolutely no problem. The first official day, they say, okay, as management, now we've decided you need to fire your whole team. But please note that this is the team that helps you get to where you are. So when you're building partnership, who's going to take more shares? Are you comfortable 50-50? Are you comfortable 40-60? So these are things you should also look into. Also, how do they handle their finances? Some people, we don't actually go into the books of the partners. I'm sure there's due diligence that's done to some extent, but have you seen how your partner spends money? I think you can understand that when you partner with someone, it's not just business. It's like a piece of you joined with that person. So when you watch them, are there people who fleece money? How do they handle money? Is it like a god to them where they'll do anything to get money? Anything. I'm talking they'll kill for money, they'll shoot for money, they'll do drugs for money. So what kind of person or company are you partnering with? We've heard of companies that will do just about anything to get PR and, and get, I think someone's mic is on. Innocent, I think your mic is on. Yeah, so people will do anything. So these are things that you, as a person in business, even though we want our businesses to grow and we want to be out there and be successful, these are very crucial things. But like I said, it starts with you understanding who you are. That means where you want to go. What kind of person am I? Am I a person of value? Am I an ethical person? Am I a greedy person? We know greed is like in the whole world, greed is just sucking up everyone. So are you a greedy person? Do you actually care about the customer, or it's all about making money? Because I can't decide for you. You are the only person who really knows who you are. If it's about the money and you don't care, and you don't care, if it's about the money and you don't care, then those are the business partners I guess you're going to look for. But if you're a person who's all about, I want to add value, I want to be honest, that these are definitely things that you should put into consideration. I know I was asked to speak for an hour. However, I always feel like it's good to interact with people so that we actually talk about real issues that bother them or things that they're struggling with. So I don't know, Andrew. I could possibly add on, but I think we can also make it interactive so people actually get a chance to talk about things that they may be struggling with.
Yeah, right. Maybe from the simple conversation we've had so far,
Mm,
and have a discussion around that, then you continue.
mm,
I've been writing in the chat for people who have just come on. We just talked about networking, and then now we are on partnership. And some of the highlights in the chat, I can read them for you very fast so that you'll be opening your mind to discuss and share and ask questions.
okay.
Working is not just about meeting influential people, it's about connecting with those you aspire to be like, finding your flock.
Mhm.
I'm quoting Angie, this is not me speaking.
Yeah.
It might be sounding very deep. I'm just quoting Angie. Then she talked about traveling to gain exposure and expanding your network, mingling with people in faster economies, and starting with nearby places, Nairobi, Kigali. Then while networking, introduce yourself according to the setting. If you are selling, know when to sell and when to be humble, when to build rapport. And then make sure you bring value to the people you are partnering with. It's not just about money. Then other things that we were writing, culture, make sure your culture aligns with the people you're partnering with. Understand whether your partnership is short term or long term. Know how to share revenue with your partners or equity. And the last one was handling money. Know how your partners handle money. Are they greedy? Are they? Yeah, some of the things maybe I didn't capture them, but that's what I captured as I was taking notes. So the floor is open. If you have any question for Angie, unmute, raise your hand, or write in the chat, and then we continue. Hope we are all on the same page. Yes, Roland.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And okay, come on. Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you so much, Miss Angela, for the information that you've shared, the insights. It's awesome. So my question, or what bothers me is, as a software developer or as a person that uses technology to, help businesses get to one level to another, it's fun, creating these solutions, but I worry about values, especially when you're not aware. So, for example, you know that maybe these are certain things that I wouldn't want. This is a kind of client I wouldn't want to work with, maybe because of their belief system, what they do. Let's say you're Christian and certain things that people do, you don't want to be involved. But here comes an opportunity where you're not aware. We've met online. The person is legit. They are all good in terms of it's not like a scammer or what. The person is well. They have, if it's money you wanted, they actually have the money. Would you just do the work for them, right? But then you later,
Go ahead.
yes, you later find out that perhaps this person, their track record, maybe previous history, I wouldn't want to be affiliated with someone that has perhaps, let me make it plain, maybe being part of the so-called LGBT movement or any other thing of the sort. Maybe they do sign things that are probably contrary to your values, but you've actually gotten to know maybe later on in the you've probably done a little bit of research and you've found out, but initially all was good. How do you get to deal with such a situation? Should we always be biased? Okay, bias comes in because of your values, but you also want to be professional, right? You don't want to say, oh, because you're this, you know what, I won't work with you. Why? Because you're this, then I can't really work with you. How do you deal with a situation? Should we just be professional and say, you know what, let me actually add value to this person and not see them through a lens of who they are, but what you're able to, in terms of value, what you're able to actually give them? So I don't know if you get my point, but yeah, that's my question. How do you deal or how do you act in such a situation? Thank you.
I think there are two scenarios. First of all, obviously, you mentioned Christian. I'm a Christian, so I clearly hear where you're coming from. I think there's two things. There's providing a service to someone, and then there's partnering with someone. Now, when you're providing a service to someone, you've used an example, whether they're racist, whether they're LGBTQ, whether they're, I don't know, there's all kinds of different things, whether their religion is not the same. When you're providing a service like a supermarket where someone comes and buys something from you, or it's a software development thing, like you've said, I don't think then you can judge someone because it's not a partnership. You're giving them a service of what they want. If you're a software developer and the LGBTQ says, you know what, just make us a custom thing, 2000. But I'd start off by saying, obviously, you have to pray about it. You have to pray about it and ask God, is this something I should do? Because many a times we don't know people's hidden hearts, only God knows people's hearts. But if you're providing a service, whether you're farming and you're bringing produce to Kampala, it's very hard to distinguish and say, I'll sell to you, but I'll not sell to you. That's a bit discriminatory. However, if there's a company that says, we want you to join our company as a software developer, where you will sign contract with us, because when you sign a partnership or contract with someone, you're representing who they are. If I'm in Warid, or if I'm in breweries, right? That's why you see that even marketeers, when you're selling Coke, you can only put that Coke free because you're a representation of who they are. So if you're providing a service to someone and you just want to make sure, social media knows people more than they know themselves. If I say I want a service from you, unless someone is really, really trying to get off the radar, but I'm sure if you go to Google, something will leak and you can just kind of suss out the person you want to. And I'd say sometimes if you get that feeling that you're not very comfortable, to be honest, as a Christian, I leave it. Because I can assure you, I was in a scenario where I was asked to partner with some people because I got a grant of about $100,000, and I let it go because I didn't want to work with a certain team and because I knew their integrity was not tagged. So I decided to let that grant go. God blessed me in other ways, thank God. But you and especially in business, because some of these things will look so lucrative. Someone will come and give you an offer of a lifetime. But if it causes you to doubt yourself, to doubt your values, to doubt your ethics, to be honest, 100% most of the time, it's not worth it. So like I said, if it's a service, it's a one-time service, someone just writes to you and says, hey, I need a customized documentation of this. Can you do it? Yes, no. It's 2 weeks, your work is done, that's it. It's different from I want to work with you, because when you join with them, you have to basically be a representation of their ideologies. But as I said briefly, always pray about your business dealings, because even the devil comes in sheep's skin. So you have to always pray about your partnerships and then go with your gut. And then I hope that helps. So I've been in both scenarios where I went to Chicago and there's a lady who was she's one of those Python like generals. And I spent coffee with them and I came back and a year later, I found out it was a transgender. I was in shock, but that did not make me ache. But I know that I cannot now. I can't go into partnership if I meet them. If I go back to Chicago and they say let's meet for coffee, they're a child of God. But if they're like partner with us on this thing, we want to spread transgenderism, absolutely not. I hope that answers your question.
Perfectly. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think one more question from Roman. He's saying, when networking, can we get more insight on how to attract mentors and majorly keep mentors, and how to reach spaces with available mentors? Yeah, I think he's asking about networking with mentors and keeping them and where to find them.
I think mentors just don't hang their CVs there. Some do. There are mentorship programs all over. I think if you actually just type in mentors in Kampala, some people will show up. But because you're not just randomly looking for mentors, who's your role model that you'd like to mentor you? Because a mentor should be someone you want to 100% emulate. So for me, I can't just be like, I want a women in technology mentor. There's so many across the globe, so many. But there was one who I met when I was in Rwanda, and she's in blockchain. And I approached her because she owns that blockchain space like this. Like, she meets vice presidents. So I approached her, and every now and again she lets me in on how to do things. But in terms of mentor, find out who you want to get mentorship from, because they're there. They're there. Find out what space do you want that mentorship from, and then kind of find. And it's all, I understand that a lot of successful people are willing to give their knowledge, but many are not approached. If you approach someone, whether it's in LinkedIn, and just say, look, I love your work, I just want you to understand how you do it, I'd love you to mentor me. A lot of them will actually be willing. You just have to decide the time. They may be very busy, but you can decide a time. They can give you a time and say, I can give you a mentorship once a month, once every 2 months. But I would say there's no particular conference where mentors go, because sometimes you'll be shocked. You'll expect someone to want to be a mentor, and he doesn't have the time, nor does he care to be a mentor. So I would say, look out for a person you want to mentor you, and then approach them.
Okay, I think we can move on as people are cooking and connecting dots and getting more questions.
Okay, so when we also talk about partnerships or building a business, I'll probably deviate a little bit. When we're talking about building partnerships or businesses, are you looking in terms of the future? I find that I tell people or friends of mine that Uganda is a country where you must travel outside of Uganda, actually outside of Kampala, at least once a year, because you have to see how the world is moving. Things are changing very fast. When you go abroad, that's when you realize that things like AI are not a joke. When you see self-automated supermarket tills, it's not a joke. So another thing you also have to look at when you're doing your business, whether it's you or looking at getting a partner, is how future ready are you? Are you still building a business where you think your little sister will come and manage the till, and you'll get mama so and so to come and manage your books? So how future ready are you? Or in other sense, the people who you're partnering with, how future ready are them? Are you planning to build your business and have it automated completely 2 years from now? Are you ready to change the network within your business? How do you run your business? Is it automated? Is it the type of business, if you're not there, it's completely slowed down? If you're sick, it can't move ahead? Are your people that you employ or part of your team, are they all well up to date with this digitalized world? Do you watch news? Do you watch news about the industry that you're in? Who are the players? Because sometimes we're there and people are just thinking, oh, Bill Gates, the richest man in the world, that's old news because now you have, Chat GPT. Microsoft is nothing to write home about anymore. You had NVIDIA. There's so much going on that you have to ask yourself here where you are. You have your business plan, you've created it. But what does your business plan look like 2 years from now? Because it can absolutely not be the same. Even the company that you're working with, how have they transitioned? Have you looked up at them and seen, okay, from 2022, this is what they do. This is something new they've implemented. How did they react to COVID? Did they go down? Did they sail through? Even your company, did you sail through? And if you didn't sail through, did you look at some things that you could change just in case another pandemic hits? What changes have you made? And what future changes are you planning to make? Because right now, everyone is looking for a company that is future ready. If you cannot talk about how your company is going to work, let's say, digitally, if there is removal of fiat currency, I don't know if all of you are watching what's happening with the fiat currency and the petrodollar. If you're in business, you really need to pay attention. If you're looking at petrodollar and what's happening there, and the BRICS, and the chance of CBDC, and the rise in taxes, how ready are you? How have you decided to protect yourself? Just in case they say, fiat currency, we're going to have a reset. Most of you keep hearing the word reset, reset. Has it really reset you and your thinking? And also think about if someone approaches you and they say, oh, we want to, be a part of you. Even just the founder of the partnering company, when you follow, are they someone who is future ready? When you talk to a person, you want them to be a mentor. Are they future ready? Because that is something you cannot ignore. Are they dropping nuggets like Bitcoin, Chat GPT, all these things? Is someone still, just talking about Microsoft? You see, when I need to go to the bank because I need to deposit money, and it's not wrong for someone to go to the bank and deposit money, but are they living in the future? Because this is your business. If you're still thinking you need to round up, get the till, put all the 10s, the 15s, then someone gets a rucksack and walks to the bank. I think we also what happened to the gentleman who had his 62 million shillings in the car. Up to today, I don't understand how he didn't make digital transactions, but it's things like that. Is your business future ready? Do you have a ledger? How do you keep in touch with your contacts, or rather your clients? Are they having to walk to you every time you have merchandise and you're sending them an SMS? Oh, and your new network, please come over to shop 53 Cham Towers. Nobody has time for that. So even for your business, how future ready are you? How convenient do you make it for your customer? How convenient do you make it for your networks? Yes, you've met me. You want me to purchase your items. How easy is it? If you have a website, do you have an API that makes financial transactions easy? And because when you network with people and you meet, like we talked about, that person you wanted to meet or who could change your life. If you're also not talking about either their company and your company in the future, that it becomes uninteresting because everyone is trying to move forward. Everyone's company is trying to move forward. Every bank is trying to move forward. I think I was in Nairobi last week, and I was registering for some accounts, and this girl, the girl who was working on me, unfortunately, instead of getting my bio page, printing my bio page, she printed the visa page. So she sends me a message and she's panicking. She's like, oh my God, did you go back to Uganda? I forgot to photocopy your bio page. But I said, it's okay. Let me WhatsApp you the images. Now, this is obviously someone who is working in a traditional bank and she's not yet forward thinking. So those are the things we're talking about. Can you educate your client and tell them, actually, my company is better because I'm going to make it more efficient? What value do you add in this 4IR era? Matter of fact, you should ask yourself, if we were to suddenly be locked down in a pandemic right now, do you have enough networks and partners to keep your business going? Do you have your clientele somewhere on a database that if you were locked down and they were allowing movement of borders or whatever, can your business still continue to grow? Do you have enough numbers to say, guys, we're locked down, but these are the products I have. If you need any help, this is the delivery. You can send the money here. This is my bank account. Just make a transaction here. Are you able to actually continue to exist? Because if you go around meeting as many people and building networks, but you actually have no way of contacting them, if anything goes wrong, or, should we go back in lockdown and you're just hoping to meet people via these conferences, which, by the way, they've cut down on, how are you going to survive? That's another question. Are you ready to continue living in this futuristic world? Andrew, it's now 5:56. I don't know if we have time for any more questions.
Okay, guys, do we have questions? Me personally, I have a question, but I'm hosting, so mine will come last. If you have a question,
I don't see any hands. So I'm assuming everyone is like a millionaire now. They got it covered.
guys, if you
Maybe-
have, yes,
may-
Angie, you were saying something.
Now, maybe if they're billionaires, maybe they can educate me. I think I'd ask, Benjamin has a question, I think.
Yes, Benjamin. Billionaire Benjamin.
Hello,
They're all now billionaires. Yes, sir.
hello, how's everyone? For me, I had a question about partnerships, mostly about partnerships. Like, if you're going into any partnership, what could be like those core documentations, mostly legally, the ones that you shouldn't underlook. Most of the times when you're making partnerships with people that you've always worked with, but now you're deciding to do something bigger. These are like your friends that you've been with, your mates, maybe your relatives, and then now you're trying to bring them up into any partnership. Which legal document? Any documentation do you think that it shouldn't be overlooked whatsoever?
Well, I think this varies, first of all, depending on the nature of the business, because every business, I believe, has its own requirements. However, definitely in terms of a Ugandan business, definitely you want to make sure that they're fully registered, because in business, there's no friendship. The entity exists or it doesn't. So is it fully registered? Is it a legally registered business? Does it operate legally? The other thing is also, do they pay their taxes? Because URA is not joking around anymore. So are they up to par with their taxes? Have they been compliant with their taxes? The other thing is, what are their financials looking like? You have to go through those bank statements. Are they spending recklessly? Is someone taking money at the back? How are they handling their finances? Are the books looking good? Are they too much in debt and they're just surviving on debt? Are they always borrowing? So for me, those are crucial things, but every industry has its own things. For example, farming will be different from fashion, because fashion, maybe it will be on imports of the fabric. There might be some laws there. You'd have to look at the industry and find out exactly what is the law under operating that business. And if they're joining the partnership, then you have to make sure that all those things are compliant. So off the top of my head, for me, that's it. Like, if someone is not legally working, absolutely not. If someone hasn't paid taxes, URA is coming for you left, right, and center. So I hope that helps. You should be able to find that information on the net.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I see someone said I should just continue, keep sharing. I have to find very many stories. That's why I'm asking questions, so that you can lead me. I think maybe I'll talk about taxation a little bit. I think, IFRS was a whole different thing. I think you also the IFRS thing, but I request you guys, when you start a company, do not, and I say do not try to evade taxes, because when you start evading taxes, I think it's like how we start to evade tithing. You start this month, then the next month you're like, oh, this month was hard, but next time I'll pay. And then that month comes, and before you know it, URA is knocking at your door, because I believe every time you default, I think they do a percentage, or your interest gets an increment per day. So just before you know it, it was 50,000 you're owing them. Before you know it, you're like in 200 million. It's happened. We've seen it. So when your company, actually, it's a good question. If someone wants to partner with you, he brought it up in a way that if he wants to partner with relatives, but if someone wants to partner with you, do you have these required documents? Are you fully registered in URSB? Did you buy your name? Did you copyright your name? Do you have all the documentations, all the directors, everyone? Is everything aligned? Your bank statements, what do they look like? Is it today you're buying umeme for the company, then tomorrow you're buying bread for home? Like, is it your personal account, stroke your company account? You're just in there. When you're broke, then you dilly-dally a bit in the bank statement of the company. Are you a very disciplined entrepreneur that you might have 100 million on your account, but at home, all you have is bread and black tea? Are you really, really disciplined? Are your taxes up to par? Do you have your tax certification? Have you sat down with a tax consultant to know what you can write off in terms of your taxes, what you can't, what you can account for? All these things, have you actually put them in order for you as a company? Yes, Simon Peter. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, good evening, Angela. Thank you for sharing. I had not yet gotten the question, but when you started talking about taxes, then I remembered. Would you advise someone who's just starting up in the ideation process? Because I've been dealing with something whereby I have a financial management application that I'm working on, but it went through some stages, still on ideation, but I've been finding a problem with the registration itself, whereby caught in between, should I register? Because on the next stage, I'm required to register, but should I register now or give it some time and first give it some time such that I understand this better and then register later on? Because I haven't understood it better with the registration. You could register and then they start charging you with taxes and all that.
I'm just going to give what I think I know, but I would suggest you really get in touch with a person of URSB, because you talked about you're waiting for the next phase. I don't know if the next phase is like next month or in 6 months. If you need the registration in 6 months, then I would say just wait a little bit.
It's in like 2 weeks or a week's time.
Oh, okay. So what happens actually when you register and you're not earning? What I believe, and please, again, I say, make sure you find out from a tax consultant in URA, but you are allowed to file nil returns so that you don't have to pay any money. Because remember how tax work, how it's different from employee tax. When you're an employee and they tax you even before the money hits your account. But for a business, what is supposed to happen is you're supposed to make sure you take care of all your expenses, and then what's left over is what's taxed. That's how business tax works. So if your income was 3 million and then your expenditure was also 3 million, as long as you can prove it, you can definitely file for nil tax. And tax varies depending on how much money you're bringing in. So I would say if you're supposed to register like within a week, I would say do the registration. But before you do, just talk to a tax person so you know how to comply with the taxes before you actually get into it. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. I'll get in touch with a tax person or someone that has more knowledge about it, and then I'll inquire more.
Yeah, please go to. I think you can even visit URA. Just make sure you get it from a legit person from their office. Roman Reynolds has written, speaking of. Ronald, would you like to inform us on what you'd like to say? Because your statement is quite long. Is Roman on?
Roman, can you unmute and speak? Your statement is quite long. Maybe, okay, let me read it for you. Speaking on being futuristic, after showcasing the value of future technology to some business process like having online meetings and digital banking between partners, but they are not for scamming, how can a business owner guide, I think it was supposed to be
Rigid.
clients to see the value in new systems instead of losing them to people still handling business the traditional way, which is a big thing happening. That it's hard to young people starting up relate or convince clients and some investors that are still traditional.
Yeah, that's actually very true. And that's something I spoke about probably about 5 years from now when I said the biggest problem that we're going to have in the future, that was about 5 years ago, was that intergenerational or cross-generational business working space. You'll have, I'm just very blessed that at my current company, it's a very young company. So I would say 90% of our meetings are online. But we're also very aware that because we work with very traditional organizations, we work with most financial institutions, embassies, government, government companies or government organizations. So we do face those issues. So that, I think that also takes me back to when you're partnering with some people and it's not just a service. I think I'll actually take it back to culture, the culture I talked about. Are these rigid people who are like, I always refer to the boss who enters and wants everyone to bow down to him and he wants coffee brought to him. Because for me personally, when I was living and working in England, our CEO would actually come and get coffee for everyone because the culture was in the UK, whoever's going to the kitchen goes and makes tea. So you can imagine how I felt when one day my CEO came and said, "Would you like a cup of coffee?" I thought it was a trick question. And I was like, I didn't know what to say. And he says, no, it's supposed to be that whoever goes to the kitchen, whether you're the CEO. So for them, it wasn't like, oh, I'm the CEO, you must bow. But I know that especially in traditional companies here, the boss is still the boss. He has his own parking and all that. So when you're partnering with a company, it goes back to when you sit and listen to these people that you're going to partner with. Is he talking, let's have a Zoom call or meet me in the office? And you're telling him, oh, but I live in Entebbe, it might take me a while. He said, that's fine. So when you're creating the partners, who do you want to work with? Because that's very, very frustrating. It's very, especially when, imagine, I live in Entebbe. Imagine if I had to actually drive to town to have this conversation and then it finishes at 7 and I have to drive another 1.5 hours back. So it's a loss of time. People hate it, as the young people especially, they don't want to do that. And it's even worse because the riots that were happening in Kenya, I don't know if you're aware of this, but they were saying this is the war of the Gen Zs. And the Gen Zs were like, we don't care. Us, we're not afraid. We're not afraid. We will show the world what's going on up here. We're not afraid of you parliamentarians because they understand that they can have a far wider reach with their phones than what the newspapers will show. So for that, definitely you want to work, and I'm telling you want to build partnerships with futuristic people. But like I said, when you sit down and you set the goals of your company or the goals of your journey, and it has that you want to be the most efficient company, I would suggest then do not look at people who are going to hold you back. If you feel you can take it, why not? If you can drive to all those meetings, why not? But that's definitely a company that's not being futuristic. And the more they're not futuristic, the more they're going to lose clients because no one wants to get back into that era of driving to the shop to look for a dress. Absolutely not. Anyone else with a question? See. The billionaires got everything they need.
Yeah, I think I can also ask mine.
Mm.
I haven't gotten language for it, but it's like a summary of maybe everything we're speaking. I know you used to have what are they called? Business cards with you in your car, in your bag. Yeah? Every time you speak, you give someone a business card, or you receive business cards.
Mm.
Is the networking style, is it the same? We are talking about how things have changed. What is the ideal way of, like, what is the standard now? Is it still the same old, let's talk, here is my business card and that's it? Or you've seen a change or a shift over time?
There's definitely a shift. So what's happening with conferences now, especially like the ones I've been to, I was in one in Cape Town. So what actually happens is when you register for the conference, you get a profile page, like a social media profile page. So what happens, you get your social media page and then you start filling in your info, where you work, the country you live in, blah, 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 all your info, your bio, whatever you want the so-called network people to know. So what happens, even as you begin, even before you attend the conference, actually, days prior, people actually start sending you invites and say, hey, I see you'll be in Cape Town. Can we meet at booth so-and-so on Tuesday at 11? And then you have the chance to reject it or accept it. So when you meet, it's like the person's already met your bio. So you're not going to start so where do you live? What do you do? The person has already got your information. They know the questions they're going to ask you, because I think those meetings are just like 15 minutes each, unless you prefer to extend it. So because someone already has your info, they know I'm from Uganda, I work for an IT company, I do this job, I work in women tech. So the minute you meet, you get down to business. And for those who might just walk in and have not registered, this LinkedIn scan thing is very real. It's very real because I don't know if you've used it, but all you have to do is go to your profile and then you do, I think next to the search button, there's like a QR code. So all you have to do is press that QR code, the person scans it, they have your LinkedIn connected immediately. I personally have not carried like business cards in probably about 2 years. Because what happens, I realized that I have about 1,000 business cards in my house. And apart from taking them that night, I've never looked at them again.
So it's about profiling yourself on those
Yeah.
platforms, on social
Yeah,
media.
absolutely. And I would request, I know there are people who are like, I want to, what's the word? I want to be off the grid. I tell you what, unless you are planning to grow your own plants and not buy anything online or anything, being off the grid right now is a little bit dangerous, because even if I meet, let's say, Simon and Senguzi, we've had a chat here, and just something interesting he said, or he just mentioned like, yeah, I do, platforms, I build custom platforms. I may not know everything, but if I now go to LinkedIn or Facebook, will I find more information there? Because what happens, you're really trying to get in touch, you got into a board meeting, someone's like, we need a financial thing. You go to his page, there's no phone number. He last posted in 1982. There's no profile picture to know if he's really the one you're contacting. So that's also very frustrating for people, because someone might actually need you and wants to give you business like right now, but they have no way of contacting you. All these Facebook and all that, you can use all that for your just, but if it's a LinkedIn thing, talk about yourself. LinkedIn is a time for you to brag. Put and say, I'm in the third stage of my product. Like, no one's gonna blow your horn for you. You have to blow it. I know we tend to think like, oh, on social media, I'll be blowing my horn because I'm saying I graduated here, I got this. No, you have to be known. You have to show the world the value you bring. So please, I suggest that even when someone takes your LinkedIn code and then invites a friendship or a connection, that when they actually go there, you have your bio, you have examples of the things you do, because also HR does it now. HR goes, you come, you declare how great you are as an employee, how you don't mind working after long hours, you love to volunteer, that's your main hobby, you like to read to little kids, and there's absolutely nothing showing any of that activity at all. So people are really questioning, if that's your passion, how can you not even write anything about it? How come there's nothing to show for it? So I would suggest that the next best thing that someone has next to the business cards is these social media platforms. They'll look you up on Google, and Google will either bring in LinkedIn, Twitter, and also that takes me back to some of you may have to actually go back in time and delete some things. Because what people also don't know, like, for example, when you go to ask for these visas, whatever country you want to go to, the first thing they say is select all the social media platforms you're on. It's not write down, but select all the social media platforms you've been engaged in the last 5 years. So some people, you know, they just like to lose it and their opinions must be heard and they're politically affiliated with this, and that's fine. But just know that someday you might get that partnership and all they have to do is read something you wrote about 5 years ago that you wrote as a kid and had no idea, and just that could ruin you.
Yeah, let me ask my last question, then I pass over. I don't want to take over the platform. So now, speaking of evolving, because the you 5 years ago and the you now, you are not the same, obviously. So how do you make your platforms also evolve? How do you adopt? How do you mutate? How do you switch? Because we talk about the future, technology. How do you switch? How do you easily switch or evolve? You as a person with the platforms, with the methods, with the systems, with
I think I have I'm on just about every platform: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. I think those major four I'm on. So I had to actually go back in time and delete some things which I thought were irrelevant. But also I learned to post for an audience. What I put on Facebook, which is, oh, look at my new hairstyle and all this, I will not put it on LinkedIn because I know the people on LinkedIn mean business. But at the same time, I still want to be humane. So I'll use Facebook and Instagram to celebrate my mom's birthday, to celebrate my brother's birthday. All my brothers came to visit me. We went to the beach. But in terms of professionalism, I stick to that in Twitter and LinkedIn because that's where I know the serious people will go. I don't think LinkedIn is an appropriate place to say, oh, I got my nails, done. Look at this sparkling green. Absolutely not. And people will begin to think I'm completely lost and unserious. So with time, I've learned before you just post anything, you mix and match, you don't care, but you have to learn the audience. Who's the target audience of the platform? Instagram, Facebook, matter of fact, I think people have grown tired of Facebook. I don't know if it's a hit. I know Instagram's a hit because it's precise. You just put a picture with a caption just to display who you are, your personality. But in terms of LinkedIn and Twitter, that's where the serious talks are had.
Okay, thank you so much. Guys, you have the platform over to you. If you have a question, just raise your hand, unmute, or write in the chat, whatever is easy for you. And then we pull some information out of it. And yes, Benjamin.
Okay, thanks a lot for this. I still have another question. That is talking about partnership still. So I'm looking at this partnership where different people with different skill sets get to partner on to produce maybe some kind of service. Let's say you now me I'm a graphic designer and a brand specialist. So take an example, like me partnering with maybe a chef somewhere, and we are trying to partner like on a food business and all that. So how do you get to like as you're going to do that partnership, how do you get to account for you know, some people they say like, you bring 50, I bring 50, you bring 30, I bring 30. So how do you get to be like, now me, I'm doing the branding, you're doing the cooking, and how do you get to value that and come up with should I say a like budget kind of thing, so that you can know how much each one is bringing on the table, and then also work around in case of the, maybe you're selling the company, or maybe you're bringing a new partner on board. What how would you go around the clauses of this partner should first pay for the former, all the work that we have done in the last 10 years and all that. Does that make sense?
It does, except that partnership. I don't know. Because if someone is cooking and you're taking photographs, I think those are totally two different avenues of business.
Yeah.
Because you can't quantify the food in terms of photography. So either you'd have to come up with just shares that I buy into this, everyone comes with their skill set, and you either each put like an equal amount of money, and you say maybe each one is bringing 3 million, but then the shares into the company is what would differentiate, because those are two different skill sets. Someone who comes and probably does graphic design, should that person own majority shares, or is the person who cooks and goes and does the marketing, should that person have more shares? But you can't quantify. If it was like a restaurant and they say, you know what, I have a farm, I'll bring the food worth 200,000 every day. And someone saying, okay, I've got chairs and tables worth 10 million. So your capital is this, your capital is that. If the food's not there, we can't do the business. If the furniture is not there, we can't do the business. However, someone can cook without you. So I'd need to understand that partnership, unless you're just saying that let's put money together and we just work together, and you own these shares and I own those shares, but I don't know how to quantify, because how do you quantify graphics, for example? Is it per poster? But then you've also thought about the graphics, so how do you quantify that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes more sense now.
Yeah.
Angie, I think also you talked about clearly understanding, a plan for revenue and equity sharing with your partner.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you want to have control? Who's going to be the majority shareholder? Because I mean, if he doesn't cook, the business could collapse, but you could fail to do an advert and the business still continues. So those are the things you have to look at. Being asked, what would you do if you were at university in a time like this? If I was in university, I don't know if I'd go to university, to be quite frank. But if I was to go, I would still not choose any other path but IT. Of course, I'm in IT not because it's a lucrative business, but it's a passion of mine. IT is something I live, I breathe. And now when they've added just about everything in IT, whether it's fintech, medtech, it's all coming to the same direction. So I think I would still be in tech. Possibly, I'll still continue with networking and cybersecurity. There's some things which are not making sense to me now, like I think business IT, I don't know what courses are out there, but for me, I think definitely networking and cybersecurity and probably AI. I mean, to also keep up with the time, I'd have to be in AI, definitely machine learning. So because the future is going to be tech, to be honest with you, I would still learn tech, but I would incorporate it with a passion of mine, because you don't want to learn tech alone if it's not your passion. So if it's fashion, how do you integrate tech in fashion? If it's food, how do you integrate that in food? So I'd still go tech. And what would I tell my younger self? Oh, start saving when it's still early. Learn about compound interest, because It's very easy for someone to become a multimillionaire if they start saving early. And the longer you save, the compound interest grows like crazy. So I know when we're young, we want to buy the biggest iPhone. No one's stopping you from doing that, but always have that discipline that I must save at least 20% of my salary. You'll be very shocked how much money you'll have by the time you reach your middle age. So that's what I'll tell myself: save more, learn more, and not just books, because that's what we had to. That's what was always being taught to us. Go to school, learn for Cantab, Everything was P7, S4, S6, but there's so much to learn out there. So much. Quantum physics, just learn random things. Quantum physics, CBDCs, what's that about? Sit in a financial class in Stanford online, learn business, there's so much. I tell people that yes, there's a part of academics, but this world is really moving with street smart people. When you see all those Elon Musks and everything, it's because they were curious. It's not so much that they got A's in physics and everything. Yes, they went, but they were curious. Be curious. Get on YouTube. YouTube is my favorite platform more than all these Apple TV and Netflix and everything, because YouTube, I could just randomly ask, is there a cow with blue eyes? Why would it have blue eyes? Is it a genetic problem? Recently, I discovered they're now manufacturing chickens without feathers. Like, be curious. Be curious. This is, when we look at GMOs and all this food, yeah, they're making chickens without feathers, all these things are being done. They remove certain genes out of so you have a chicken that's DNA, and so there's a lot going on, and you must keep your ear to the ground. It's not just you go drive, do a boring job, talk to a few clients and go. There's a lot going on in the world that you have to keep your ear and to the ground for. How can recent university graduates effectively showcase their skills and attract job opportunities beyond social media platforms? And great, because there's a lot of bias on what university went, etc. And if you get an interview, how can you make yourself unique? Okay. Now, I don't really like talk about this university thing, because I have to come clean and tell people that I didn't go to university and it was deliberate. I fought with my parents over it, but they really wanted me to do human resource, and I hated it, and I wanted to do tech. So I had to sponsor myself out there in the UK and do tech. But it's very unfortunate that you guys are living in a very transitional time where you have people who are confused. You have companies which are still looking for those traditional, where did you go to university? Is it Makerere? Is it Chamboko? Is it to that? And then there are younger companies who are just like, you walk in, they don't even look at your CV, but they want to learn the character. They want to know how curious you are. They want to know what you get up to when you're in your free time. You'll be surprised that some interviews, people will come in and it will not be, where did you go to school? Which grade did you get? But they'll ask you, how do you spend your free time? And just that can make them hire you or take you out. Now, for university graduates to showcase their skills, that showcasing your skill, you actually have to be very practical. Someone said on here, he's a graphics designer. So if you come for a job interview, even if the job has not been advertised, if you look like at a social media page, let's say for musicians, these people who are promoting musicians, and you look at their social media page, and in their heart of hearts, you're like, you know what, actually, I can do better graphics than this. Don't wait for them to see, now we're looking for, do your best work. Do your best, like 5 different social media adverts. Walk up to them. And one thing you must have in this lifetime and in this era is confidence. What I'm so against in Uganda, please forgive me when I refer to Uganda, because like I said, I've studied like in 3 different countries. The problem I have with Ugandan is they teach people to be timid. In school, when you had the wrong answer, the teacher either threw a duster at you, you got canes, so we have that fear of being wrong, as opposed to where you could say something wrong and the teacher asks you, why do you think that? So you could give your reasoning. So here in Uganda, we're faced with that challenge of, you must be timid. When, it even goes back to family. When you're trying to talk, they tell you, adults are talking, be quiet. In this era, you have to be so confident. You have to get that guts to walk up to something and present what you want. So you have the right to walk into that studio or whatever and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. Is it possible for me to see the person who's in charge of the social media? I just have some ideas. Surely no one should chase you away unless they're really arrogant, right? So you can walk in and say, I love your social media platform. I was so intrigued. I love the work you do. I love the musicians you work with, but I was designing something and I thought maybe if you liked it, I could do some freelance work for you. Surely, do you think you should be pushed away? The problem is people think I'm a graduate, but all you're doing is walking around with your brown envelope and then you open it and we already have like 600 envelopes like that. So you're not standing out. The best way to represent yourself is hardly off paper. The best way to represent yourself is to represent you. I've been in that scenario where I'm just like, I need to know who the CEO or who the HR of this place is. Find out. Get someone who's connected in there. You want to work for a certain organization, start reading up on the organization. Who is the person who's making a difference in your life? The problem is we get our papers, we go, we drop them at the what? We drop them at the desk and we ask, please give this to HR. No one cares. No one cares about you or your envelope. But if you find the HR, find out. You might find them at a wedding, whatever. I remember it goes back to that whole thing. Find out what they like, try and build rapport with them. And as you build rapport with them and you're eating your pieces of chicken, then you continue to talk about yourself. Do you find social media better for coding in heels than having a website as well? Wondering what your views. I've never had a website. Because it's less interactive. And I don't know if people really still go to the website unless they're looking for a specific product. I personally, it takes me a long, long time to look at a website for something. Because it's a static thing, unless you're just finding out information, who's part of the team, blah, 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 all that. But now, like me, who doesn't really work with a team, what am I going to display? And websites are good if you have a lot of products to display. If you're selling merchandise, definitely, then you can, segment the stuff and say, this is clothing, this is shoes, this is blah, blah, blah. You can pay here if you want to reach us. It's informative. But I find the younger generation, and remember, Uganda is a very young country, second youngest in the world, I find our audiences are more likely to go to social media as opposed to websites. That's what I think. Anyone else with a question? Please feel free to write your questions because I'm reading them. Are the billionaires exhausted? Like I said, if there's no question, then you guys must be killing it. You have no problems. You're getting customers left, right, and center. Matter of fact, I think you guys are even chasing customers away because if you're not asking questions, then you guys must be killing it. I'd be very interested though to know how many of you guys, if you're in business, how you're getting your customers. And how you find your customers. Is there anyone who wants to raise their hand and tell us how they're getting customers?
Yeah, or how they got their first customer.
Even that.
Yeah, Benjamin is saying referrals. Feel free to unmute. Mugumia Benjamin says referrals. I think it's Ugandans, it's referrals. Any
Yeah.
other? I think it's a very good exercise for people can learn from each other. How did you get your first client, or how do you get your clients? You would learn a thing or two.
I'm surprised that even on Zoom people can be quiet or online. It would work for me because I'd be hiding. No one would see me.
Yeah, so guys, let's do the activity. Peter says social media. We can all participate in this activity. How
Because you could get help. You could get help from your fellow friends if it's referrals. I mean, go ahead.
Humphrey says referrals and friends. Solomon is bringing Twitter on what? Luta is saying reach out. Roman, is this a question? When you were young, what's the number one thing that got you through the door? Yeah. What's your superpower? What gets you through the door?
Confidence. I can talk about anything and I'm not afraid to approach anyone. I don't look at, if you actually see my social media page and see how many influential people I've met, it's because I'm like, I'm worthy. Why aren't I worthy to go and say hi and talk to this person? So I think it's that super confidence where I'm just like, I deserve for you to notice me as well, just like I've noticed you. So I would say confidence is going to play a really big role in this era because everyone is hiding behind social media platforms. Everyone is quiet, like many people are quiet right now, and that's the norm. So it's just like if this was a live conference, I think the people I'd remember most are Mugume Benjamin and Singuzi Simon and probably Andrew and I think Roman because they've been the most active. And that's how life is. Because if Roman or Simon or Benjamin reach out to me on LinkedIn, I will remember them. But that's how the world works, you see. So if you're silent, you can't speak up on social media, which will probably reflect who you are even in person. Those are the people that life just kind of leaves by. Because some people are like, I'm important, you must see me, I have something to say, while others are in the backseat. But unfortunately, the way the world works, the world likes to move with people who are seen. Madam, I just somehow late, but my question, what advice can you give someone who is just starting to build their network and form? Yeah, I think Andrew will share the audience quite a few things, but we talked about you understanding who you are, where you want to go, because you don't build a network with just anyone. You're hoping to build a network with people who are actually going to advance you. So we talked about, do they represent your values? Do they represent your culture? Do they represent your financial discipline? I think Andrew will be able to give you all that information because it's quite a few things that I noted back. So I'm sorry you joined late, but I think you'll be able to get them. I think it's been...
The recording is available, Godfrey. It's going to be out tonight, actually.
Someone has actually said, go ahead, Andrew.
Now, I was going to ask who is David Malan. I see people talking about David Malan.
Yes, now David Malan is actually one of he's like the most famous IT, well, it's actually CS50, computer science 50 tutors or professor at Harvard University in US. So a lot of people who are interested in code have actually watched his shows because he says he's taught over 1 million students worldwide. And his class, he's a famous man. And how I met David, I was in Boston. And because I watched his shows and a friend of mine, actually, the husband was attending Harvard. So I was like, since I'm going to be near Harvard, I wonder what the chances are of meeting this guy. And I wrote him an email. I went to LinkedIn, followed up, found his email, and I'm just like, why not? And I wrote him, I said, good morning, Mr. David Malan. My name is Angela. I'm from Uganda. I'm in Boston for a little bit. I've watched your classes. It inspired me to really learn code and everything. I would really like to interview you. I leave in about 3 days by Adler. And he wrote back and he said, hi, Angie. It would be a pleasure to meet you. Are you free the next day? Yeah. So you have to have the confidence to say, I'm entitled, I can. But you see, if you're always holding back, let me just do this little work this little business that I'm running. And unfortunately, many of us don't have big dreams. Like I think I exhausted all the people I wanted to meet in Uganda. Then I met a few in the US. That person I told you was of Python. I met Malin. I've met quite a few people. I've been on stages. So now the dream has to get bigger. But some of us are too scared to dream. I think many of us are very afraid to sit down and ask ourselves, like, what do I really want? If my parents want watching, if my aunties, my neighbors, if all these people want watching, what do I really, really want? What's my dream? What's my biggest dream? But we tend to swim around, and that goes back to expose yourself to other people, because you'll be shocked at finding your age mates and the dreams they have. You were thinking about achieving them in 10 years, and people are talking about achieving them in 1 year. Hey, I want you to talk about the idea of reading books with growing a business and recommend some books that would help grow start business. Okay, so I'm not much of a reader, but I'm a knowledge consumer. Okay, let's just say that I'm more into audio books than physical books. Reading is important, whether it's a business book or not, but reading is important. Many of us start businesses with just assuming that we know, I'll buy the product, I'll open a shop and start. But business, there's so much to business. And matter of fact, I always make a statement that business is like a science. You see, when I was asking people, how do you get your clients? Everyone's talking about different things, social media, referrals, reach out. But the question would be, I don't know if I'm allowed to take a survey, but can you raise your hand if you use a sales pipeline for your business? I don't know if people are able to raise their hands. If your business, however small it is, it might even just be you. But how many of you guys are running your business with a sales pipeline in place? One. Any more? Okay, so basically what I'm saying is, for your business to run, you actually need to understand a lot about business, from sales pipeline to the balance sheet to, what can I say, to how to invoice, to payment receivables, all these things. These are things that before you even think of running a business, you have to have a proper understanding of business. I may not suggest a book, but I know there's a very famous video on YouTube. I believe his name is Bill Ackman. Let me just verify. Bill Ackman on YouTube. He gives a very brief, I think it's like 30 minutes. Bill Ackman. It's about 30 minutes where William Ackman, everything you need to know about finance and investing.
Is the father of finance and investing.
Yeah.
Modern father of finance and investing.
So there's a YouTube video that he has that's about 12 million views. Breaks down very easy. Before some people find it hard to read, but I'll say start with that and really understand, because people talk about want to join partnerships, how much should so and so invest. Investing is not just like I bring 500, you bring 500 and we start. No, money goes, the payments, receivables, the money we owe, the tax money, there's so much that goes in. So I would say start with that, but definitely you have to read. There's nothing here, however simple something looks, you ought to educate yourself. You have to definitely educate yourself. Let me see if I can add the link there for you. I think everyone should use it as homework, because no one wants to, I don't want you guys to start businesses. They say most businesses fail within 5 years, and that's why there are very few businesses. Okay, let's see. Let me put the link on the chat. I put the link for anyone who wants to check it out a bit later. Yeah, those are the big guns. Bill Ackman was mentored by Warren Buffett. Yep, those are the big guns right there. So ask yourself, if Warren Buffett sits and you're invited to his conference, do you really understand what he's talking about? It's funny that my current project was, yeah, exactly. Show your work, show your work. Show your work. No one is going to hunt you down in your flat in Bukoto, in your flat in Ntinda, wherever you live, you have to show it out. If you're a person who's very introverted like me, you'll not find me anywhere on Kampala Street unless I'm coming from work. But you'll definitely find me on the social media platform. You'll find my work over there. So it's you to put yourself out there. You might think that, you know, I'm successful because I went to every party and I went to every barbecue and I went to every event and I went to every Rotaract. You will not find me. You will not find me in this city of ours, but I can assure you I make my work known. And also show what you want people to know about you. You might be a software person, you know, we're multi-talented, but you might also be a musician. Show your talent. You don't have to be restricted in one field. Go to the days of, I'm an accountant. You know, those were the days of our parents. Someone is an accountant for 75 years. Someone is an accountant. But right now, I can assure you, I've dabbled in Airbnb. I've done kids' parties. I've done coding in heels. There's nothing. I do interior design. I do photography, interior photography. So just because we have to live in a world where it's a world of multiple income sources. So use everything you have. People know that if they need me for interior design, there are people who contact me. If they need me for interior photos, they contact me. Someone needs ideas on a child's party, that's it. But you must be known. If I'm just known for one thing, then that's the network I'm just going to die with, just one. But people should also know you for your different talents. Another show that you can possibly watch, it may not necessarily be on TV, but I would encourage people to watch Shark Tank. You'd probably have to get the DVDs from a video library or something. But I want you to watch Shark Tank so that you see how people are trying to get investment from investors, the kind of questions they ask them. Because funny enough, when we all start our businesses, we think our product is the best until an investor starts dissecting it. So all of you who are like, which documentation do we need? What information do we need when we're networking? Who do we need to talk to? I suggest that as you watch those shows, Shark Tank, and those gentlemen and lady are asking questions, put yourself in that person's shoes. How would you be able to answer those questions? If they ask you, we want 60% equity in your company, what would you say? And what would be the reason of saying yes or no? Why are you asking for 300,000 for 20% equity and someone is offering you 60%? The other things as an entrepreneur you have to think about. If someone wants to buy your product, wants to buy your software, are you going to hand over all the rights? Are you going to be getting royalties on everyone that's sold? Those are questions you have to ask yourself. How do you set them apart by your social media, like LinkedIn is professional part of it? Do you add all of them on your CV if you're applying for a job? No, just add your LinkedIn. The ones that I was giving all the multiple pages was just at embassies. They ask how many social medias you're on. But for work, honestly, just put LinkedIn. That's what they're interested. Yeah, Andrew has put a Shark Tank. He's put a link there. I suggest you watch. There are 10 seasons. If you can, do a binge weekend on there rather than watching some, movies, action. Just there's more action in Shark Tank when you see how people are trying to fight to get money to grow their businesses, and they're seated in front of multi-million-dollar gentlemen and ladies. So you have to encourage yourself. Your business, when you're running business, you have to read all the time, get yourself educated. My CEO, honestly, I don't know how many books he reads. He can be reading 3 books all in one go. So if you're really planning to be an entrepreneur and really make a mark in the world, I would say you have to throw yourself in the deep end and drown in this business and in reading. Benjamin, do you have a question? You have raised your hand.
Yeah. Actually, I have a question. Um, I heard you talk about the interior designing and then in Python and sorry, yeah, in Python, and then I also had something like okay. What I'm trying to say is that how do you get to form a profile, yet you're good at different skills. Of course, you're not good at the same level at all the different skills, but how do you get to choose the ones that you're going to cast out there on your profile, and then the ones that you're going to say, oh, I also do interior designing. Oh, I also do this. I also do this. I also do this. So how do you get like the main one?
So the first thing first, that one I advertise is my money maker. My bread and butter, the one that I've been in the longest with the most experience, that's the one I front the most. It's the one that I'm best at. I can do in my sleep. Right now, I'm in management. I'm the GM of an IT company. So firefighting troubles, talking to clients, ensuring that the staff are happy, making sure that we win our deals, we make sure that whether it's the banks that we work with, whether it's BOU, Centenary, Diamond Trust, Stanbic, whether it's NITA, whether you name it. My job is to make sure that our company continues to look good. They continue to come back to us for business. We continue to make sure that we are making lots of money. That's my job. I can do that in my sleep. Second is, of course, coding in heels, which is my passion, talking to youth and talking to young ladies about the importance of of getting into IT. I love IT. So that's my second, and they're a little bit intertwined with my first job. So IT is my first love. That's why. So these other things I do on the side. It's the one I'll be like, I'll do it on the Saturday, I'll do it on my days off, I'll do it on my leave. But the very first thing is the one I'm really, really good at that I can do in my sleep.
So there is no necessity of making a balance.
No, because you can't be good at, I mean, you can be good at 2 things at the same time, but you see everything, even if one is at 80%, one's at 60, one's at 40, or they're both at 100, there'll be one that you really want to be well known for. I can assure you that I do photography, but I find it a pain. So I don't like to flaunt it because I know I have to wake up very early at 5 to either catch a sunrise, because in the middle of the day, the light, the glare is too much, or I have to do it at 6 p.m. And by that time I'm tired. So I don't, that's like a go-to when I'm like, man, I want to buy this thing. I need some extra cash. But I'll always put my work in the one that, first of all, pays my bills, because there's no point me advertising photography if I'm going to get like 1M at the end of the month and I have something else that I can do that can bring in 4 or 5. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a lot of it. Thank you.
Okay. Simon, is your hand up or?
No, my hand is not up.
Okay. Anyone else?
The last person, we have a few minutes to close. Maybe one person. Only one person. The ladies are keeping quiet. It's the
Not
gentlemen.
the ladies. Ladies, don't let me down. Please don't let me down. Let one of you come out with a hot question.
Rosie Roos at least speak something and represent the female species.
Honestly.
Roos,
Yes.
just say something to represent that gender.
Don't let the gentle, this is the thing that we face. Everywhere we go, we're just stuck with men. Conversations with men.
Ruth, do you want to represent your
Ruth,
kind?
help us. Help us. Ruth, come through.
Ruth is also keeping quiet. Okay. I think we can close here. Thank you so
Maybe
much,
Kelly. Kelly is late. Maybe she can at least just tell us hi.
Kelly. Kelly has just come on. Yeah, Kelly, we wanted someone to represent the females. There's no lady who has spoken apart from Angie. So
Sorry, I was on and off. I've been on actually. I had heard about Shark Tank, and yeah, I think I'm going to watch it. Yeah, thank you for the good work, Angie. Personally, I'm also an entrepreneur, but I'm a data analyst actually, a statistician, and a president of the Statistical Society, the Biometric Society in Uganda. So
Wow.
yeah,
You're where the money
hungry.
is. You're where the
Ah, not
money
really.
is. No, hold on to it. You know, this AI needs all those data and statistics. So, you know, just keep on keeping on.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I'm happy. Thank you for giving us the zeal, the confidence, because you're right, we lack confidence as Ugandans, and that's one thing we need to work on, because Kenyans are ahead. So in East Africa, we need to be on the front line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think now we can even close now.
At least we had one lady.
Yeah,
Well,
we've been represented. Any last words, Angie?
yeah. I think from what I've noticed, guys, build your confidence. Build your confidence, but you also can only be confident when you are giving your service, your product, your business 100%. Because when something is 100%, that's when you can talk passionately about it. So read up on your products, read up on your industry, find out how it's going to look in the future, start implementing now, so that you can go and confidently speak to whoever you need to, whether it's a person you're looking for partnership, for networking, or a mentor, so that you can confidently show the best of you, really. That's it from me.
Okay, let's get those hand claps going. Yeah, thank you, Angie. Thank you, everyone who attended. We are remaining with only 2 sessions to finish. So see you tomorrow, same time, same link. Have a good night.
Thank you, Andrew. Good night, everyone.
Likewise.